When I was a young boy, my father took me into the city to see a marching band. He said, "Son, Will, you..." The place that they have made, because one day I'll leave you a phantom to lead you in the summer to join the Black Parade.
The emo era of alternative culture was a time of edge, cringe, and depression baiting. I'm sure anyone who grew up in the 2000s or early 2010s remembers how rampant it was to walk around your local mall and see a Hot Topic or Spencer's chock full of pasty white kids with fringe covering their eyes and a Slipknot shirt gloomily standing around trying as hard as they could to look like they don't care.
Right.
The mall goth era, as I like to call it. And while there was actually plenty to love from the emo generation, especially in terms of music, it was also a time when some of the dumbest songs dominated radio waves with lyrics so cringy they made your teeth hurt. So fuck it. Let's talk about the 10 cringiest songs from the emo era of music. Alright, there's plenty of shit to scoff at on this list, so let's get the obvious pick out of the way. Ohio is for Lovers is a terrible song. I don't care how beloved Hawthorne Heights is, and I don't care how many people ironically like this song, but come on, this is the chorus. And I can't make it on my own, because my heart is in Ohio. So cut my wrists and black my eyes, so I can fall asleep tonight or die.
I slit my wrists for you, baby. Will you love me now?
How am I supposed to take this song seriously with a singer that sounds like his balls were caught in a meat grinder and lyrics so try-hard they make you wish he actually went through with it? The funniest part about this, however, is the fact that Hawthorne Heights is a band that's actually pretty good, and they're beloved for a reason. They were key in the underground success of early post-hardcore, and produced some pretty great records as well. Even the album this song is included on, The Silence in Black and White, was for the most part a solid record, with great tracks like Nicky FM and Silver Bullet.
Got a single silver bullet, shot right through my heart, to prove I can survive.
The band was also one of the few from this era that included elements of math rock and indie, the genres that nerds with bad opinions claim are the true roots of emo music. For anyone who likes that early 2000s post-hardcore sound, Hawthorne Heights is an essential band to listen to. But all praise aside, Ohio is for Losers is a terrible song and deserves all the mock and ridicule it gets. JT Woodruff, just remember, it's down the street, not across the road.
I've got the gift of one-liners and you've got the curse of curves. And with this gift, I compose words and the question that comes forward.
Cute Is What We Aim For is a terrible name alone and would have gotten them on the list regardless. Once a band at the top of the world with one of the best-selling debuts of the 2000s, the band wasted no time in imploding in on themselves due to their singer's alcoholism and ego problems. Hence why the second record was done by an entirely different group of musicians, and outside of touring, the band has done absolutely nothing since 2008. The Curse of Curves was a massive hit, and for a long time, it was a mainstay on alternative radio stations and played pretty regularly on MTV and Fuse. But come on. This is the guy who claims to have the gift of one-liners and charisma? I want someone provocative and talkative, but it's so hard when you're shallow as a shower. And from what I've heard, with skin, you'll win. Her bone structure screams, touch her, and she's got the curse of curves. As you can see, the lyrics are as shallow and pathetic as the singer's claims of having the gift of one-liners. Also, if you tell the cops her bone structure just screamed, touch her, you'll still end up on the registry. Oh boy, I can already see the fangirls seething in the comments. But for real, at this point, how do you listen to this song and not just see this?
Dare me to jump off the Cersei bridge. You're never afraid. I'm like that. Keep it up. Let's raise our hands. Take a look up in the sky and I say red.
King for a Day is a decent song, cursed by the fact that it has two of the most effeminate and high-pitched singers trying to be as badass as possible over it. I'm not even saying this just because they have high voices. These were two vocalists infamous for their cringy love songs and toxic fan bases of teenage girls who romanticized self-harm. King for a Day was massive to say the least. To this day, its music video has amassed something ludicrous like, 150 million views or something. Saying this song was widespread is an understatement. And despite all my jokes, Pierce the Veil is by no means a bad band. While the singer is a bit too whiny for my taste, their first record, A Flair for the Dramatic, is one of the best albums post-hardcore has to offer, with clever lyrics and genuinely great guitar work. But like many bands that came to prominence during the early 2010s, their output got worse and more generic as the years went on, focusing less on creating new and innovative sounds and more on mass marketability with the Warped Tour scene. And King for a Day is a prime example of this. While I won't shame the band for taking a shot at success and obviously hitting it out of the park, I will forever laugh at this stupid song for the dumpster fire that it is. Look, I know the obvious choice for this band is Knives and Pens with its awful music video, silly lyrics, and blah blah blah. Rebel Love Song is the worst track this band ever put out, and that's saying a lot. They essentially made a career repackaging shitty hair metal and Kiss makeup to an audience of scene kids and boomers in their midlife crisis. BVB is a prime example of what happens when you build your fan base on teenage girls who will inevitably grow up and move on. Since day one, Black Veil Brides and predominantly the Log Man himself have been targeted for scrutiny. From the obvious style over substance approach, Andy's nasally voice, and the rip-off Kiss/Motley Crue makeup, they've been memed to hell and back, and honestly, there isn't much to say in regards to Rebel Love Song, aside from the fact that it's the most blatant 80s rip-off song they ever made. My outlaw eyes have seen their lies. I choke on all they had to say. When their worlds collide, what's left inside? I hold on tight and I hear you pray. Like most of their tracks, the lyrics sound like they were written by an edgy middle schooler. To give the band just a little bit of credit, the musicians were all very talented and the band was obviously self-aware of what it was doing. That being said, however, Andy's legacy has since gone on to evolve from being a rock star to having his image being immortalized as a dude who wants to leave steamy, creamy logs deep in your throat.
So serious, I've got to take you home again tonight, 'cause right now you paralyze me.
Alright, this one might be a stretch. Kill Hannah was one of those bands that existed half in and half out of the emo scene, though I would 100% call them a mall goth band, so they're staying. Kill Hannah was the odd man out in the early 2000s. Mixing hard rock and new wave music, their sound was unique and they found a lot of success in the fringes of both the goth scene and the Warped Tour crowd. While they're never the greatest band to ever exist, they put out some standout songs every now and again. Overall, they were a breath of fresh air compared to the flood of pop-punk and post-hardcore bands at the time. Much like Ohio is for Lovers, Crazy Angel is a terrible song on an otherwise great album. Until There Is Nothing Left was the best record Kill Hannah ever put out, and honestly, it deserves its own video at some point. But towards the end of the record, we get the song Crazy Angel, a track that just reeks of filler and musically sounds like a B-side of what could be heard on the record. What really makes this song so cringeworthy is its try-hard lyrics, as well as just how fucking bad the vocal performance on this song is. I hold on so hard and pray that I won't say something wrong. I look at the stars and dream that the universe was ours, my crazy angel. The whole thing sounds like a 40-year-old tried to write something to relate to the kids.
How do you do, fellow kids?
If it wasn't for just how solid the rest of the album was, this song wouldn't have stood out so badly. But like a toenail in a cake, it comes out of left field and leaves the worst taste in your mouth.
White boy on the beat, rocking Gucci sneaks. All I do is win. Charlie Sheen started out in 06 and revived the city.
Talk about a fall from grace. How do you go from writing one of the greatest post-hardcore records of the 2000s to making this? Getting sober, apparently. Ronnie Radke is one of the most infamous and polarizing names from the Warped Tour scene. Once fronting the band Escape the Fate and putting out a near-perfect record like Dying Is Your Latest Fashion, he ended up going to prison for a number of years for battery. Upon release, Ronnie started the band Falling in Reverse and used his life story to write the album The Drug in Me Is You and become one of the biggest artists in alternative music at the time. Though his name was always riddled with controversy and scandals. In 2013, this would come to a head with possibly the worst song he ever wrote, Alone.
Now, white boy on the beat, rocking Gucci sneaks. All I do is win. Charlie Sheen.
This infamous line alone is all it took to undo all the hard work Falling in Reverse put in to get where they were. And even after the album was released and it turned out to be not so bad, it was too late. Couple this with the constant bad press Ronnie was getting and his tendency to lash out at anyone who dared to mock him, the band saw a steep decline in credibility. This was by no means a career-killing move, but one that started the beginning of their gradual fall over the years. Alone isn't just a laughably bad song, it's a cautionary tale of why your lead single is so important when promoting an album. First impressions are everything, and if this was anyone's first impression to the band, I couldn't blame them for laughing their ass off and never coming back. Crucify me all you want, but Teenagers fucking sucks. Like anyone else who grew up during the emo era, I'm a massive fan of My Chemical Romance. Their first 3 records in particular has stayed in constant rotation since I was 11 years old, and I owe a lot of my own interests and personal taste to them. But just because I love a band doesn't mean I won't call it out when they put something out that sucks. And Teenagers is the only track from the Black Parade I don't like. The Black Parade is a nearly perfect record, and I say nearly perfect specifically because of this song. The album is a beautiful concept record filled to the brim with brilliant songwriting, amazing lyrics, and top-notch musicianship. And then there's Teenagers. The music itself isn't horrible, it's just bland, boring, and goes on too long. And the lyrics themselves are what's really dumb about this. So much so that even guitarist Frank Iero thought the song was a joke when he first heard it. Teenagers scare the living shit out of me. They could care less as long as someone will bleed. So darken your clothes and strike a violent pose. Maybe they'll leave you alone, but not me. I get that being an icon to both misfit teenagers with propensity of self-harming and overly privileged rich kids everywhere can be annoying, but way to break the immersion of what is otherwise a deep and powerful record about dying of cancer. But hey, at least it wasn't Sing, right? You knew this was gonna be here, I knew this was gonna be here. I mean, what is there really to say at this point? Broken Side was one of the first to the Crunkcore party, as well as one of the worst. Their brief fame lasted no longer than a couple of years once the joke wore off, and ever since, they have yet to get any real attention. Plus, the singer looks like a meth junkie now, so, well, there's that.
Dear mother, I am lost and the damage has been done. I'm in love with my old century. Fixing this needle can't be wrong, but I wonder.
Aiden is a band forgotten by most, which is sad since they were genuinely a great band for the time, and one of the few who kept up the punk energy that was quickly being lost in post-hardcore during the early 2000s. Their biggest album to date is Nightmare Anatomy, a fantastic album that takes a lot of hints from horror punk and plays out in a fast and fun fashion. That being said, at the time, Will Francis wasn't that great of a vocalist, and the production value for the project was dodgy at best. And at no point is this more apparent than the song Genetic Design for Dying. Dear Mother, I am lost and the damage has been done. I am in love with my old century fix and this needle can't be wrong. But I wonder, where do we go from here? Because we're never coming home. The sequel is this nightmare, lasts forever. One of the biggest themes of this list is overly edgy lyrics, and these are absolutely atrocious. What's supposed to be a song about addiction in a semi-heartfelt manner just sounds laughably bad with Will's shaky and off-pitch voice and production where the band sounds like they barely are in time with one another. It's an instant mood killer and a blight on what's otherwise a good album.
Can't stop the tickles, they call me Dr. Giggles. They saw out the chisel for shizzle diesel. I'm banging with the BOTO diesel with riffles, cause I dribble like I'm rubbing on nipples. Gotta get out the pickle.
Honestly, I could have put anything by Blood on the Dance Floor here, and no matter what, you would have agreed with me. It's not often an artist is so universally despised by everyone that it can bring people together. But Blood on the Dance Floor is a one-of-a-kind band. One that really encapsulated all the worst elements of scene culture into one project. When I first discovered the band back in middle school, I thought they were a parody act. My brain instantly went to mindless self-indulgence, and I thought the overly sexual lyrics and vulgarity were just a funny gimmick. Little did I know that the entire time, Davi and company were completely serious and would sell themselves as that band who saves lives. Because yeah, listening to two dudes sing about putting whipped cream on their cocks is really gonna change someone's life for the better. The only instance I can think of this band genuinely saving somebody would be if they already tied the noose and cut themselves down just to turn this shit off. The reason I chose Monster in particular is, well, it's comical how stupid these lyrics are, but also Davi was around 25 or 26 when he would have written this song, showing not only his total inability to write lyrics, but also his propensity to self-snitch. Let my candy rum trickle, get you buzzed with double triples, getting head in rentals, avoiding the parentals. 2008, and Davi was already making it apparent that he was a predator. I mean, come on, he's literally talking about boozing up a minor and hiding from her parents here. The pedo stink on Davi was something that he had since day one of the project, but in true music industry fashion, it didn't matter, and he was allowed to obtain a massive audience, enjoy close to 10 years of high-profile success, only losing it once bandmate Jay left him in 2016. For that, Blood on the Dance Floor crosses the threshold from just cringe and enters the criminal category, making themselves one of the few bands parents could actually point to and say that they're a danger to their children, without over-exaggerating even in the slightest. With that being said, this was a lot of fun to make, and I hope at least one of the songs that you used to love made it on this list. Subscribe, support me on Patreon, follow me on Twitter. I'll see you in the next video.
It's me, Madison Ray. Played up you pathetic little babe pitties.